I want to thank you for the job that you've done, the excellent job you've done. You're on the hot seat. It's a tough job, but the work that you do is so important. And one of the frustrations that I have had, frankly, with this majority in Congress, is that the attacks on the EPA and the attacks on clean air and water and all these things are very, very frustrating to me, because I believe that the role that you play is such an important role, and that we ought to be facilitating the things that you do rather than impeding them. So I want to thank you personally for the job you've done, and I am glad that your agency is there, and I'm glad that you're doing the work that the American people want us to do. People want clean air and clean water and all these other things, and I just wanted to state that. I wanted to add my voice to Ms. Castor, who spoke about the reduction in the 2013 budget of $359 million for the Clean Water and Drinking Water State Revolving Funds. I hope there might be a way to try to restore some of that money, because my state of New York has received many millions of dollars to protect our watersheds and make upgrades and repairs to our sewer systems, and EPA's most recent drinking water infrastructure needs survey indicates that New York will require $29.7 billion over 20 years to ensure continued delivery of safe public drinking water. So I want to emphasize that, and I hope you can find some way to restore those cuts. Okay. I want to talk about fracking, because that is something in my state that is a hot topic. We have many people who are fearful of fracking. Obviously, we don't want it to contaminate the drinking water or have fracking by the watersheds, and that is a concern that I have. On the other hand, it has the potential to create many jobs in western New York, as it has been doing in Pennsylvania. And I know that I know Mr. Gett and Mr. Green had spoken with you about it. With the study. I think the study is a good idea. I think that we have to know what we're dealing with. I think it's important to wean ourselves off of Middle Eastern oil and Venezuelan oil, quite frankly, with countries that don't wish us well. But I do think that the fracking is something that many people remain fearful of, and we need to look at. So I wish you well in your study, and I hope we can have the results of that soon. Finally, I want to mention a topic that hasn't been mentioned, and that is PCBs in schools. Last February, New York City embarked on a 10-year, $700 million plan to replace all the old light ballasts in all New York City schools over the next decade. Could you please explain EPA's role in that remediation project and provide for me an update on its status? And could you also please provide an update on efforts to address window caulking in schools as well?
Certainly, sir. In 2011, EPA inspected New York City schools for leaking. The lighting ballasts were leaking, and they were leaking PCBs. And those inspections found numerous leaking ballasts with PCB concentrations, some exceeding 600,000 parts per million. The city stepped up, announced a plan in 2011 to replace all PCB lighting ballasts in 772 schools. I believe it's part of their capital budget plan to make schools more energy efficient, the lighting being part of that. The city's allocated about $708 million in its budget to implement their plan over 10 years. EPA's reviewed that plan and told city officials that 5 years would be a more reasonable time frame to address the ballast issue as part of the larger plan.
Well, I know 5 years. I know New York lawyers for the public interest have recommended 2 years, and I know things are difficult to be done in 2 years. PCB contamination in our schools, as you know, is widespread and threatens the health of hundreds of thousands of school children, certainly in New York City. And the exposure in children has been found to decrease IQs and increase risks of ADD, and among other things. So would the 10-year timetable, well, okay, I made the point It's hard without the clock ticking, but again, I hope you'll look into that. And again, I want to emphasize thank you for your very, very good work.